Let's get to it. Tucker Carlson is a political commentator, author who hosted the nightly political talk show Tucker Carlson Tonight on Fox News from 2016 to 2023. He has also previously hosted programs on CNN and MSNBC. In 2010, Carlson co-founded and served as editor-in-chief of the news and opinion website The Daily Caller. Departing in 2020, he's written 3 books. I've read 3 books. He's written 3 books: Politicians, Partisans, and Parasites, Ships of Fools, and The Long Slide. And just this week, Tucker Carlson launched a new media company, Tucker Carlson Network, a subscription streaming service. And here's the announcement. Right here.
They told you the guys torching Wendy's in 2020 were mostly peaceful. They said that masks worked. They told you the vax was safe. They tried to convince you that Russia blew up its own pipeline. The corporate media lied too much, and it killed them. We're driving to see you join us on.
Believe me when I tell you.
Wait, I should be boycotting Bud Light.
Fantastic job.
Thank you. That was amazing.
So let's welcome Tucker Carlson and the new Tucker Carlson Network. Hey, Tucker, thanks for coming on, pal.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So tell people about this new network. What should they know about it?
I mean, I just spent, 14 years. Well, I spent like over 25 years working for big media companies. And I was just reminded yet again that when you work for other people, things might be going fine and you're happy, but ultimately you're not in control. And you can't actually say everything that you want to say, because there are always limits when someone else is in charge. And so if you want to keep saying what you want to say, which is my primary goal in life, and I mean that, anyone who knows me can tell you that's true, more than money or anything else, I want to say what I want to say. You kind of have to be immune from pressure from companies or from advertisers, and you kind of have to go subscription. At least that's the conclusion that I have reached, especially going into the next 12 months, which I think are going to be pretty intense. So very intense. So I just wanted a fortress behind which I could say whatever I want. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's what we're trying to build.
Well, it's exciting. I'm here on YouTube where I don't have any controls on what I say, except Bill Gates gets to dictate what I say about COVID and what I say about health. And people don't understand how he has control. A billionaire like Bill, he doesn't own Google or YouTube. A
simple farmer.
He's a simple farmer. How does he have control over what I get to say? Well, because he's the biggest donor to the WHO, and Google and YouTube have a policy that I can't contradict anything the WHO says. And so as the biggest donor to the WHO, because he contributes through his Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and through Gavi, another vaccine company that organization he started, and they donate just as much to the WHO, if not more, than even China. So they're like the #1 donor. And the former head of the WHO has admitted that when they have to go around begging for donations so they can run their organization. And then when someone gives them a big donation, they have to do what they say. That's not me saying that. That's the former head of the WHO. So I'm controlled by what I can say here about COVID, vaccines, health policy in general, the next pandemic, the last pandemic. I'm controlled by Bill Gates himself. And Bill Gates, as we know, funds those fake fact-checking organizations that fact-check me on Facebook. And they always say that it's not, I'm spreading misinformation, but I've never had misinformation in anything I've ever shared on Facebook. They're the ones who are the liars. They're the ones who are funded by billionaire class and Bill Gates. And so that's the beauty of what you're doing, is there won't be someone like Bill Gates controlling what you say, or Jeff Bezos, or any other handful, or Klaus Schwab, or the WEF controlling you. So you'll be, and that's what scares them, right? So aren't you afraid that they're going to come for you?
Of course they are. But if you just take 3 steps back, it's sort of remarkable we wound up in a country where billionaires control everything. I mean, I was naive. I assumed, billionaires would be sort of off in their own private world, literally on their private boats with their harems, beating their servants with their canes or whatever, doing whatever they do. But I never imagined a world where they would determine what I was allowed to think about the medicine I take. I mean, that's a level of control enabled only by technology. It's a new thing that has no precedent in human history. I mean, the feudal lord did not exercise that kind of power. I mean, famously, he could sleep with your wife on your wedding night or whatever, but he could not tell you what to think and didn't try. And so this is like a new thing, and everyone should be mad about it. No one's mad about it, weirdly. We lionize these people, but we should be afraid. And yeah, of course they're going to come for me. I mean, but I've been through that before. The best I can do is just the best I can do, I guess.
And so they did already come for you one time. You were the #1 rated news show in America. And I remember when I met you in person at your house in Maine, and we started talking together. It was around the Syrian war, and I was shocked that you were allowed to tell the truth about the Syrian war on television. Let's remember, that's why the Democratic Party and the mainstream media turned on Tulsi Gabbard. They turned on her not because of anything except that she started to tell the truth about the Syrian war. And as soon as she did that, she became persona non grata, and they attacked her. And so when I asked you, I said, well, how are you allowed to tell the truth about the Syrian war? And I don't know if you remember, but you told me it's because you don't have any advertisers. You remember that?
Right. I mean, it's like, right. They'd already taken them all. Yeah. So there is a lot to be. I mean, everyone talks about fuck you money. You know, yes, fuck you money. No one has fuck you money. There's only fuck you poverty. You're only free when you don't have anything, actually. And in that narrow way, it applied to me because, like, GM was not advertising on my show. It couldn't because all these pressure groups had prevented it. But to Fox's great credit, I had an arrangement for the whole time, the 14 years I was there. And my position was, it's your channel. If you don't like what I'm saying, take me off the air. But as long as I'm on the air, I'm going to say what I want to say. And again, if you don't like it, I'm not going to conform to your views, but you always have the option to take me off, of course. And they exercised that option in the end. But they kind of didn't for the time I was there. And, you know, whatever you think of them, I just have to be honest. And that is true. They let me say it. So good.
So when the pressure groups came for Glenn Beck and they took away his advertising, Fox News got rid of him. But when they took away your advertising, your show was so popular that explain how you still funded that show, how Fox still made money off you.
Well, they made it by the way, I don't really know because I never had any visibility into the numbers at all. Again, this is when you work for someone else, like you don't know what's going on. And there was so much I didn't know. And I wrote my script every night. So I was like completely, I mean, you know what it's like. You're completely in your own head when you're writing something. So I was so cut off. But mostly from subscriptions. I mean, you buy a cable sub and it's X number of dollars per month. And then some percentage of that goes to the different channels. And Fox got the biggest, I think the biggest cut of any channel. So it was really a pretty good formula. And it's one I'm kind of hoping to replicate. If you have a subscription model, you are to some extent insulated from the stuff. Now you don't control, you know, the very many different layers of the internet between your face and people's phones or televisions, but you can definitely get around the advertiser boycott stuff if you just, you know, have a straightforward arrangement with your audience.
So the ironic thing there is that the pressure groups came for you to take away your advertisers, which they thought would be the end of you. But that was actually the freeing of you. You were unleashed then. And that's why you were allowed to start telling these truths that nobody else has the guts to tell or is allowed to tell on corporate news media. Nobody else, nowhere on CNN, MSNBC, or anywhere else on Fox did anybody tell the truth about the Syrian war. You were the lone guy in mainstream news media telling the truth about the Syrian war. And I can go on and on. You told the truth about Julian Assange. You told the truth about COVID. You told the truth about Ukraine war. You were the only, it was amazing how they allowed you to do that. And now I have my own theory about why they finally shit-canned you. My theory is that you told too much truth, and the last truth you told was when you brought RFK Jr. on to tell the truth about Big Pharma, and that was a bridge too far because RFK Jr. had told me that he was friends with Roger Ailes, by the way. They shared a tent at a kibbutz, which is... And I have a theory about that too. So, but he told me that when he would tell Roger Ailes all the stuff that he had learned about vaccines, Roger Ailes said, "This is all great information, and I'm glad you're sharing it with me. But if I let you on my news station to say that, I would get a phone call and I would be fired." And so that's why he couldn't let him on. But you brought him on, and it seemed like within a week after you had brought him on, they had gotten rid of you. So does that what's your theory?
Well, I really don't. I mean, I honestly don't know. And it is one of those, those mysteries where there's so many possible suspects that it's kind of hard to pick. I know the Ukraine thing didn't sit well with really anybody in Washington or New York. And by the way, maybe sometime before I die, I'll learn why they were so obsessed with Ukraine. It's not as simple as they were all making money, because they weren't all making money on it. There's something deeper that I honestly don't get. But it was absolutely real. And I lost friends over it. And someone I really liked, we didn't agree on everything, but I really liked him, would not talk to me because of the Ukraine thing. So the level of hysteria around Ukraine was very intense. Obviously.
Was his name?
No, it was someone, it's a well-known person who's really a good guy, and he won't talk to me. And ran into my wife recently. I'm very mad at your husband. And she said, I've known this guy for many years. He's a television person. What? Why are you mad at my husband? Over Ukraine. And my wife's like, why are you mad about Ukraine? What? She's not political. She's completely confused. Like, why would that be a personal dispute or something? Do you know what I mean? It was like I attacked one of his kids. But the pharma thing, just to be clear, I know you know this and say this all the time, I'm sure, but they buy more advertising than any industry, not to sell the products that they make, but to control the coverage of those products. That's obviously the point. Right. So, yeah, that's a tough thing. And I think Bobby was fundamentally right about that, clearly, about the vax. And, there's no doubt nobody liked it. It's one thing to be like, oh, masks don't work. And I know nothing about vaccines or medicine or science at all. And I never claimed that I did. But my spidey senses went crazy with this vax. I was like, what is this? It's weird. And I don't want to take it personally. And I didn't. And I think people should have a choice not to take it. That instinct turned out to be vindicated. But the second I articulated that in the mildest way, like, hey, we've never had any successful vaccine for a coronavirus, so let's slow down a little bit. Holy smokes. I mean, people, they went crazy. Everybody, not just the channel, but everywhere. And that, by the way, absolutely solidified my instinct. I'm not taking this crap, and no one in my family's taking this crap. But I never really figured out what that was about. I do think it's more than about advertisers like Ukraine. Like, there's some weird hive mind command that's going out and convincing the people with the most power in our society, must get on board with whatever destructive nonsense someone's cooked up. Like, I don't have a good theory. Do you?
Let me just I have to, because Bill Gates controls me, let's remind people that the vaccine is safe and effective, and it won't stop the spread or contraction of the virus, but it will keep you from getting seriously ill, hospitalized, or dead. So
slows it right down.
Slows it right down. Kurt and I, we eat 4 or 5 boosters for breakfast. Yeah. And so, Kurt, did you want to have something to say? So okay. I'm here with the great Kurt Metzger, by the way, Emmy Award-winning comedy writer.
Hey, Kurt.
Hey, man. A point for it's Pfizer. Remember James O'Keefe and Project Veritas? That's right. All of a sudden, he's out of his own thing.
They kicked him out of
the best video he ever did.
The best news report he ever did, or maybe the best news report of the year. Yeah. That he got fired for that from his own company because of the power of Big Pharma. Now, I lost lots and lots of friends. People who worked for me, people who wrote for me, people screamed at me on the phone, telling me I shouldn't talk about COVID and I shouldn't talk about the vaccine. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to tell people when I find out that they're being lied to about this? And I was told, you should tell them to talk to a doctor. I'm like, well, I'm bringing doctors on my show. And then they told me, well, you should bring out a mainstream doctor. I should bring out a mainstream doctor. They can get that anywhere else. That's not what this show's about. This show's about bringing you an alternative. It's all called an alternative news show. It's not called a mainstream news show. So I'm not going to bring on Dr. Fauci on my show, although I'd love to. He would never come on my show.
They weren't mainstream. They were mainstream doctors.
Of course, the doctors that I did bring on were actually mainstream doctors. Dr. Robert Malone, who I brought on, Dr. McCullough, Dr. Pierre Corey. These are all mainstream doctors. One of some of the most cited, most well-researched, the greatest doctors in their fields up until COVID. And then, of course, they had to be discredited by the Atlantic and New York Times and Jeff Bezos and MSNBC and everybody else because they had a narrative that was counter to what happened to COVID. So, I've experienced that myself. People lost their mind. Most of the people in Hollywood that my old friends, they won't come near me. It's like if I go into a comedy club, I'm Florida and they are Alaska. They stay as far away from me as they possibly can. Not all of them, but most of them. So did you
No. But...
Okay. So I certainly have experienced that. And I think really that is what happened to you. And you know what's funny about all the RFK Jr. propaganda that they've given him. By the way, the guy was a hero to environmentalists, and even environmentalists hate him now. They all turned their backs on him. People who are environmentalists don't want anything to do with him because he found out something about the vaccines and how they get approved and what's really in them that he had to share with people because he couldn't keep that truth inside of him, and he shared it. And so now he's persona non grata. It's amazing what they've done to him. But if you notice, his favorability ratings is higher than both Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Isn't that amazing?
I have noticed. But it's. I think what's so interesting is that doctors who clearly can read, I mean, they're literate by definition. They're not stupid by definition, you hope, but I think it's true. They're smart. They look at the evidence and like everything they said was fundamentally everything they said was wrong about the vax. And it's hurt a lot of people. And like, where are all and some doctors, I know the three that you mentioned, and they're great, but there are tens of thousands of doctors in the United States. And why aren't they all standing up and saying, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I cannot believe I recommended it. I mean, I endorsed the Iraq war in 2003. And at the end of 2003, I realized I was wrong. And I felt bad about it for 20 years. 20 years. In fact, it was 20 years ago this week that I went to Iraq. And I felt bad about it ever since then. And at every opportunity, I apologize, not to please other people, but to maintain my dignity, my self-respect. I mean, that's a prerequisite. You have to, if you hurt someone unintentionally, you have to say, I'm sorry. And I can't believe that 99% of American doctors won't do that. And I'm not going to them, by the way. I would never go to a doctor who was still lying about COVID because that's a dangerous person. That's an immoral person and a dangerous person.
My own personal doctor, who I won't name because she's already been attacked, was the one who pushed back. She treated me when I was vaccine injured. I called her, and I was afraid that she wasn't going to believe me. She said, Jimmy, I'm treating 5 people just like you. 3 of them are nurses, 2 of them are doctors, and none of them feel comfortable to talk about it. And so she knew really early on that there was something nefarious going on. She was the one, they told her they wouldn't let her treat patients. They would, when they would come in for COVID, they would just tell her to intubate them. And she was like, everybody's dying. So she started giving them steroids. And they came to her and said, hey, you're breaking the rules. You're not allowed to give people steroids. And she said, yeah, but my patients are living and your patients are dying. And then 6 months later, the FDA and the CDC reversed their advice on that and said, okay, you can give them steroids. And so I was very, very lucky to have my own personal doctor be on the forefront of that. And so I trust her more than anything. Now, I want to go back.
What a blessing. I mean, yes.
Go ahead.
What a blessing. No, you're just so fortunate to have someone with deep medical knowledge who is a decent human being and not insane. And, most people, including me, do not have access to a doctor like that. And I've met doctors I like, and I'm sure they're competent in their specialties, but I can't get past it. It's like, I'm great at my job. I killed a bunch of people, but I'm a great person. It's like, no, it's too big. It's too big a sin to overlook. Like, you have no credibility unless you apologize for that and explain how you reached that wrong conclusion. That's like, anyway, I can't get past it.
When I got vaccine injured, I was 4 or 5 weeks after my second dose. And I bought the propaganda like everybody else. I didn't have my spidey senses like you because I have a bone disease, and I was convinced that they told you that when you get if you get COVID, it's going to go right to your weakest organ and kill you. And so I knew I was in bad shape with my bone disease, and I was afraid it was going to go to my bones and kill me. And so I was the first one in line to get that vaccine. And so 4 or 5 weeks after my second dose, I was still sick as a dog with headaches and I had a stiff neck. I had exhaustion all day. My joints ached. I had fevers. I didn't know what to do. So I tweeted about it, and I said, is there anybody else having these symptoms? And luckily, there's a doctor named Dr. Uganda who was he was starting a study to try to treat people like me. And he said he was also trying to come up with a protocol to treat people with long COVID. And his theory was that people with long COVID would present the same way with people who were vaccine injured. And he showed me biologically that I did present. He goes, "You've never had COVID, but it looks like because of these tests we ran, your biological markers look as if you have long COVID, but you don't because you never had COVID." So he's like, so whatever your symptoms are, it had to come from the vaccine. So then he got me on. He was the one who told me that they were lying about ivermectin. He was the one who told me that ivermectin was considered a miracle drug before COVID. They were even looking to ivermectin to cure cancer before COVID. And I looked it up, and that's true. And so they always knew that it was a great drug, but of course nobody could make money off it. And if it actually did treat COVID, they couldn't get their emergency medical use authorization for their vaccines. So we've been lied to about. So I just want to say thanks to Dr. Yoganda. He was the first one who helped me, and then he said you better get your personal doctor on board, and then she was. So I was taken care of in that way, and now I have Dr. Pierre Corey taking care of me and a few other people. So I am taken care of. So Cozy Earth, they sell like all the stuff for your house. We got sheets from Cozy Earth. And it was like they were sourced from bamboo. They're not made completely, but there's some kind of. But anyway, they're our favorite sheets, and they come with a warranty. I never heard of that before. A sheet coming with a warranty. So it's from Cozy Earth, and right now it's their best-selling bamboo sheet set made with viscose. That's called viscose from bamboo. It's temperature regulating, only gets softer with every wash, sensitive, skin friendly, and it's available in 13 colors. I got the white ones. But it's our favorite sheets. We love them. I'm not making that up. And so it's the softest fabric guaranteed, 100% viscose from bamboo fabric that feels like a cloud. Perfect sleeping temperature. So they give you a 100-night sleep trial. I never heard of this. So all Cozy Earth products and a 10-year warranty. What? That's what they say. So all Cozy Earth products can be returned or exchanged within 100 days and include an additional 10-year warranty against defects. So it's against defects. Okay, I get that. So if you're racking your brain trying to think of a right present for someone, you'll never go wrong with gifting the most comfortable sheets. Hey, I will give these away as gifts. This is a good idea, actually. Clothing and accessories that your friends and family have ever felt. I'm talking about Cozy Earth. So that's my personal experience. And if you want your loved ones to feel better, sleep better, and smile when they think of you, so you couldn't choose a better gift than Cozy Earth. I'm going to give it to people. I actually am. I'm going to give it to you, Misha. You want some Cozy Earth sheets? They're coming. What size bed do you sleep in? Queen. Okay, I'm going to give you a queen. Whether it's their life-changing luxury pajamas, oh so soft bedding, loungewear, or plush bath towels, you'll love shopping and gift giving at Cozy Earth. So here's my call to action. And here's my gift to you. This is my gift to you this holiday season. Go to CozyEarth.com and enter the code Jimmy to save up to 40%.
Whoa.
Well, I should have said that at the top. They buried the lead. I don't know why they put this I should have led with this. They're going to get 40% off if you go to CozyEarth.com and use the code Jimmy. That's CozyEarth.com. We're doing live comedy shows in Oxnard, California, Venice, California, Palmdale, California, Omaha, Nebraska, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Michigan, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, and Boston. Plus, we're going to put a date in Edmonton, Canada, plus Vancouver. See ya. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.